Entertainment in the Elizabethan Age by Deanna Clayton.
To start off, I'd like to say that board games were very popular for all ages. Games like chess and shuffleboard are exactly like chess and shuffleboard in our time. Backgammon, shown in the bottom right corner, was also very popular. The object of the game is to move all of your checkers around the board into your home board and then bear them off. The first player to get all their checkers off the board is the winner. For the game Alkirk, shown in the top right corner, the objective of the game is to take all the opponent's pieces or to produce a position such that the opponent is unable to move. The game Fox and Geese, shown beside Alkirk, is a game of inequality. The geese cannot capture the fox, but aim, through the benefit of numbers, to hem the fox in so that he cannot move. The objective of the fox, on the other hand, is to capture geese until it becomes impossible for them to trap him. The geese start by occupying all 6 squares of one arm of the cross, plus the whole first adjacent row and the 2 endpoints of the central row. The fox starts in the middle of the board. Those are just a few examples of the games that were played. Card games were also quite popular in the Elizabethan era. Games like 1 in 30, Rough and Honors, Ma, Bone Ace, Naughty, and Primero were all played. 1 in 30 is very similar to the card game 31 that is played nowadays. The game is for 2 or more players. Each player is dealt 3 cards face down. The dealer starts the deal to the player on his left. Starting with the eldest hand, the player to the left of the dealer, a card may be discarded face up by each player. It is replaced by the top card on the deck or the previous card on the discard pile. The player that comes closest to 31 with 3 cards in the same suit is the winner. Play continues by discarding 1 card at a time until a player knocks twice on the table. After the knock, the players get 1 last discard. The hands are then shown, and the hand closest to 31 wins. A player who hits 31 exactly and wins automatically and does not have to wait for the knock or make a knock. Ties are redealt. Rough and Honors is a team game that is quite complicated. In the game Ma, 2 to 10 players may enter the game. All players bet an even amount to enter. The object of the game is to win either 3 or 5 tricks or to prevent another player from doing so. The winner of 3 tricks wins the pot. Primero is also a game of gambling. Dice games that were played are Knucklebones, Hazard, and Novem Kincuck. Knucklebones is like a modern game of jacks. Dice games are ancient, one of the oldest game formats, where the earliest dice were simply animal knucklebones, probably where the name came from. Knucklebones were counted based on which side they landed on. Older dice can be made of bone, wood, or ivory. Some games that children used to play often are Blind Man's Buff, hopscotch, marbles, ball games like bowling, tag, which we would call catch nowadays, seesaw, and handy dandy. To play the standard game of Blind Man's Buff, one player is blindfolded and then disoriented by being spun around several times. The other players, who are not blindfolded, amuse themselves by calling out to the blind man and dodging away from him. To play handy dandy, a child hides something in his hand and makes his playmate guess in which hand it is. If he guesses correctly, he wins the article. If wrongly, he chooses an equivalent. Some sports games that were played in the Elizabethan era were archery, battledore, bowls, horseshoes, pall mall, which is exactly like croquet, skittles, which is exactly like bowling, tennis, billiards, hammer throwing, gambling, hurling or shinty, which is similar to hockey, game ball, which is exactly like football, rounders, which is similar to baseball, stool ball, which is exactly like cricket, wrestling, tic-tac, and bear and bull baiting. The game that I was not familiar with that I found the most interesting, and the most horrible unfortunately, out of this list is bull baiting. Bull baiting was a favorite form of amusement. In this sport, a dog is required to pin and hold. This is where the dog jumps up and seizes the bull by the nose and doesn't let go. The bull's nose is the most tender part, therefore it's left helpless. Many dogs were killed and many limbs were broken. Bull baiting normally took place in rope enclosures in circular buildings away from the public. Children used to play many physical games, unlike games children play now. The first 4 games mentioned are quite violent. Boxabout is probably the least violent of all the games. This game is played when one person punches the person next to them as hard as they can, declaring, "Boxabout!" The punched person must then punch another in the group, and so on, until everyone except the person who started has been punched. So you're not allowed to punch this person, not that that has stopped many participants. This means the last person doesn't get to punch anyone, so you don't want to be the last person. Done is in the Mare is a game where two people, usually young men, get the largest, heaviest, wettest dogs they can pull out of the nearest bog and take turns dropping them on each other's feet until something breaks or one person gives in. Cudgels is where two people, again, usually young men, get large, heavy, knobbly sticks and beat each other about the head and shoulders until one of them passes out or gives in. Hobnails may be driven into the sticks for better effect. Horrible. Shin kicking is where two, young men, hold each other at arm's length and kick each other in the shins until they fall over with a girl nearby that they're trying to impress. The girl will go home with the winner. Shuttlecock is a game played with wooden paddles and a feather shuttle like a badminton birdie. You can incorporate as many people as you have paddles. Quoits is basically like horseshoes, but uses rope rings instead of horseshoes. Stoolball is rounders or softball played with a straight bat and a small wooden ball. Because the poor were unable to have the forms of entertainment that the richer people had in the Elizabethan era, some forms of entertainment that they used were acting troupes, tournaments, dancing, trained animals, jugglers, and strolling players. For books of the Elizabethan era, Pliny's The Secrets and Wonders of the World provided children with vivid descriptions of dragons and elephants. For more serious tastes, Plutarch's Lives and Chapman's Homer were both available. The bestseller of the time was Fox's Book of Martyrs, published in 1563. These books were all graphically illustrated with blood-curdling pictures. The Adventures of Francis Drake was also a popular travel book of the time. Illustrated pornographic works, often Italian, were also extremely popular. Elizabethan poets such as Edmund Spenser or John Donne discovered the rich potential of the English language for simple, moving poetry. Parties in the Elizabethan era can be considered similar to parties nowadays. Dancing was considered very popular. Dancing was considered an opening of the mind and an exercise of the body. Dancing for the upper class were influences of Italy, France, and Spain, and was often done in pairs. Dances for the lower class were influenced from English country dances. These dances were usually done in groups of couples in a round, square, or rectangular set. Masks were a form of entertainment for the upper class where there is dancing and singing and the attendants must wear masks. Women were allowed to attend these events, which is a difference from typical parties of this time. There are many similarities and differences between the Elizabethan era and the 21st century, but some of the main differences are animal cruelty, theater and movies, games versus video games, and books and TV. Back then, animal cruelty was a main form of entertainment, and if anyone in the 21st century witnessed anyone torturing an animal, there would be a huge problem. In the Elizabethan era, theater was very popular and technology had not been looked into yet, therefore there weren't any movies. Therefore, the people of that time got their entertainment from live shows. Also, back then, only men were allowed to act because it was not a respected profession. Instead of actors being praised and role models, like they are nowadays, they were looked down upon, and they actually used to travel around in carts looking for people who will pay to watch them perform. For theater in Elizabethan times, the most expensive seats were the highest seats farthest away from the stage. But now, the most expensive seats in theater are in the front row closest to the stage. Games in the Elizabethan era were very interactive, but now people can only interact with others in video games over a headset, not face-to-face. In the Elizabethan era, books were very popular until the TV was invented. Dancing was also very different in the Elizabethan era compared to now. Back then, there were no forms of dirty dancing, and you would never see people lined up in a square formation doing the same dance nowadays in a club. Some similarities between the Elizabethan era and now include gambling and sports. In the 15 and 1600s, people would place bets on sports and entertainment just like people now would place bets on things like horse racing. People would also gamble with their money on games of dice and cards. Sports were also very similar because there are many sports that are exactly like sports in the 21st century that were given different names, like archery, horseshoes, pall mall, skittles, tennis, shinty, game ball, rounders, and stool ball. Overall, I really enjoyed taking part in this assignment, and I learned many interesting games and facts about all the fun people had in the Elizabethan times, and how different it is from the activities we do now. Thank you for listening, and I'm glad I could share what I know now with you.